Today's video is going to be all about how one habit can essentially transform your entire life. By the end of this video, I'm hoping that you'll not only feel motivated, but you'll also feel like I've equipped you with a clear plan on how you're never ever going to break any habit. Excited? Let's get into it. Have you ever had those days where you feel like you just want more from life? You just feel a little bit stuck, like you know you've set some goals, you know like you've said 1,000 times over you want to lose weight, you want to make more money, you want to just like show up consistently for yourself. But no matter what you do, you find yourself almost stuck kind of in the same situation. Is that something, like, do you resonate with that? Okay, if so, I'm going to discuss in this video how you can essentially stop breaking all of your goals through creating habits and systems. Right, stick with me, you're going to learn a whole lot. Make sure you've got your pen and paper and write in the comments anything that you learn as it's coming up. Studies actually show that 88% of people that write New Year's resolutions tend not to stick to them at all. I find that so embarrassing. Like, I don't find it embarrassing, but I find it so bad that people write down things for the sake of writing it down. I've got a lot of people in my life that I know for like the last 10 years in a row, they've written down the same goal. January 1st comes, they're like, yeah, on it. February 1st comes, let's start again. That wasn't the real January. February's the real January. March comes, it's forgotten. It's just a next year goal at that point. And there is one thing I learned from James Clear's Atomic Habits. If you haven't read that book, 100% fully recommend that you read it. That book taught me so much about myself and how bad I was at just setting systems. And because I'm not setting systems, like, if you're not setting systems, you're not setting habits. It's that simple. One thing you have to think of is, what if just one daily action can completely change the trajectory? I can never say that word. What if one daily habit can change the trajectory of your life over the next 6 months? Think of it, it's that simple. You don't need to become a whole new person. You don't need to become Ashton Hall waking up at like 6 in the morning, no, 3 a.m. just to do all of these habits by the time it gets to 9 a.m. You don't need to do all of that. Just one simple action daily can actually compound over time and become a whole habit. First thing I want to get into is goals versus systems. This is the whole ideology behind Atomic Habits by James Clear, that you don't need to just build a goal. You need to actually build a system behind a goal. So for example, let's say you decide you want to become an author. Writing a book seems like a daunting task, but writing 200 words a day every single day and showing up for yourself with something as simple as just 200 words, over time that will compound into an entire book. You want to become a runner, but you've never run before, you can do something as simple as starting with a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk, and over time increasing your pace and until you become like a full-blown like 5k runner, marathon runner, all of that. It's not like, when you think of it as I'm gonna run 5 kilometers, that's a daunting thing. But in 6 months, if you set it into incremental actions, those can compound into a whole system, and that system becomes a whole habit. It's as simple as, if you're failing to reach a goal, your problem isn't willpower. It's not just because you're lazy. The problem is actually how you approach it. So James Clear actually describes this as, bad habits repeat themselves again and again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. You've probably seen the diagram before. That's like the power of tiny gains, which I'm gonna have somewhere in the corner here. So essentially this diagram states every single day in a whole year you'll be about 37% better, whereas if you're 1% worse every day, you're actually not that much worse off. Super embarrassing, my phone died halfway through recording, so let's stick to. Let's look at a few habit principles that have worked previously for many people. There's the law of repetition. Essentially, this means what you do over and over matters. Repeating a behavior makes it stronger and more automatic. Think of it this way, it's almost as if the neural pathways in your brain are building out a new road every time you try out a new skill. The more you repeat this, the stronger these neural pathways become and essentially turn into like motorways, making it much easier for you to do these things in future. So you might have heard people saying like the 10,000 rule, become an absolute pro at any skill. Essentially, this is how that law of repetition works. The next one is the 66-day rule. So you may have heard of the it takes 21 days to build a habit. This is in fact not actually factual. So the University College London did a study and found out it takes 66 days, around 2 months, for a habit to actually be built. Some habits form faster, some a little bit slower, but essentially 2 months is a very realistic benchmark. If you can push past that 66 days, then that habit almost works on autopilot. A lot of people may feel like, oh, this feels like a chore after 3, maybe 4 weeks of trying a habit, but if you keep pushing through, eventually it will feel like second nature to you. Then there's the keystone habit. This was coined by the author Charles Duhigg. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Keystone habits are habits that have a positive ripple effect. So essentially, exercise is an example of this. If you think about it, when you're exercising, you start eating healthier, you start drinking more water, just everything seems to work out in terms of your routine when you start exercising. This can be said for journaling is another example, meditation, even something as small as making your bed first thing in the morning. These aren't magic, but they're essentially habits that inspire other habits to essentially come into play. Then there is something known as a habits loop. This is a cue, an action, and then a reward. So an example of this is if every day you get the cue in your head that I'm feeling kind of hungry, and every time at 3 p.m. you then go into your cupboard and get some biscuits, that is the action, otherwise known as routine. And then once you've had that biscuit, that's essentially the reward you get, is feeling a little bit better is the reward. So if you do this over and over and over again, eventually your brain will trigger and know that as soon as it hits 3, it's time for your biscuit, and it just becomes a routine over time. So in turn, rather than doing this as a negative thing, you can actually do it as a positive thing. So if you want to journal, you can think, after I have my morning coffee, the cue is have the coffee, then the routine is the journal, and then you reward yourself with something that you enjoy. So it could be something as simple as give yourself some chocolate, and you know after every time you journal, you're gonna have chocolate. Probably not the healthiest choice if you're doing this every single day, but it's something. Then there's the Goldilocks rule. This is not too easy, not too hard. It's finding that sweet spot in between. So if you're starting a new habit and you tell yourself, okay, I need to go all into this habit, you're less likely going to want to. So example again, writing a book. If you think I need to write a whole chapter, you're gonna think that's too hard. If you think I need to write one sentence, you're gonna think that's way too easy and it's not gonna keep you engaged. So you need to find that sweet spot that essentially is not too easy and not too hard. So maybe 10 to 15 minutes of writing every single day, and that way you're not overwhelming yourself and you're also mentally challenging yourself to want to keep going. The point of this is to build a habit that is not too demanding, but at the same time, it's challenging enough to keep you interested. Then there is the implementation intention. This is the when, where, and what. Scientific studies show that if your brain has a when, where, and what, it's more likely to implement that habit straight away. So for example, rather than writing, I'm going to journal more. If you write at 8 a.m., I'm going to journal at the coffee table whilst I'm drinking my coffee, something like that. It's very, very specific. This decreases decision fatigue and it's already mapped out. It's like that saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. Essentially, if you're just writing for the sake of it, I'm gonna journal, okay? Your brain needs a little bit more from you. So make it clear, set the scene, and you're more likely to follow through with it. If you want your habits to stick, don't just set the intention, make them concrete, scheduled, and visible. Then there's the environment design. If you shape your space to enable your habits, you'll be in a much better place. So for me, one thing I used to really struggle with was waking up early to gym. And I remember there was a point when me and my partner, we would go to the gym every day at like 6 in the morning. This is when we were in Cape Town during winter and it was raining. It was like really, really, really cold and it would still be dark out. And there was just just nothing to motivate us to get up and go to the gym. So what we would do every single night would pack our bags, would also put our gym clothes aside, and also make sure we put our phone on the ground. So when we hear our alarm, we have to physically get out of bed and take our phone off the alarm. And then by that point, because we're already out of bed, you've already experienced the cold air, and the clothes are already on the side. You just put on the clothes and you're ready to go to the gym. If we had it in a situation where our usual selves are put your phone by your bedside table, you hear the alarm, you snooze, you stay in bed, that would never have worked for us. Another thing is, if you're telling yourself you want to eat healthier, but your entire freezer and fridge is like stacked up with unhealthy foods, there is no way you're gonna ever make the positive decision to eat healthier, because your environment is enabling you to stay stuck in who you've always been. This is the same for just like having your phone around. If you want to stay focused, you need to declutter everything. You need to remove your phone from your space, declutter your desk, and essentially, like, I know a lot of people love having like 15,000 tabs open. Close some tabs and make sure you only have the ones that allow you to focus on what you're currently working on. 15,000 tabs is just gonna make your mind go super confused, ADHD everywhere. You want to click on this, you want to finish this task, you want to finish this task. But if you're doing the time blocking method, it doesn't make sense to have other tasks open. Then there's the temporal landmarks, the fresh start method. Have you ever noticed how on a Monday morning you always feel much more motivated? Or whether it's like the first of the month, the first of January, a part of you always feels really motivated to do the most amazing. This is known as the fresh start method. Psychology shows that people are more likely to do what is required of them when there is a fresh start. An easy benchmark that is recognizable. These essentially create mental separation from our past failures. But here's the good news: you don't need to start on a Monday. You don't need to wait until the next start of the month. Start tomorrow and call this your personal start date, like your personal new year, new me, anytime, any day. Just always remember, time is a social construction and you can decide at any point. I feel like I hate the people that say, I'm going to start on Monday or I'm going to start every month, because if you have to wait for a specific time to get started, you're not that committed to the goal. You don't, mentally, you're not ready to change. You're still holding on to your past self. And then there's habit stacking. I feel like everyone knows this from James Clear's book, but this essentially is using your existing habits and creating habits on top of it. Instead of creating a whole new life and a whole new pathway. Let's say you want to start running. This one's actually for me. I'm trying to get into running. I'm trying to actually, probably shouldn't use that kind of keyword. I'm a runner, and I already go gym. I already do cardio. Rather than doing elliptical, rather than doing bike, I'm just swapping that habit and doing running exercises instead. And the formula for this is, after the current habit, I will then do this habit. So another example of this is, after you brush your teeth, you can stretch for 2 minutes. After you make your morning coffee, morning tea, you write in your journal. After you log onto your laptop, you take 5 deep breaths before that meeting. Habit stacking works because it essentially removes the need of figuring out when you're going to do that new habit. And then the last one is lagging versus lead indicators. Focus on what you can control. This is something I feel like every creator and every entrepreneur needs to hear. Your results are lagging indicators. Okay, hear me. They come after your habits. Essentially, an example of this is weight loss is a lagging indicator of exercise and a healthy diet. Revenue is a lagging indicator of how consistent you are, how much work you put in, how much you showed up for yourself, and all of the new offers that you placed. You can't control the lagging indicators directly, but you can control your leading indicators. These are the daily inputs. So even something as small as drinking water, how many hours you decide to work, pitching clients, learning new skills, those are the things that you can control. When you track those and stay consistent with those, then the lagging indicators will eventually show up. So stop obsessing over outcomes and start obsessing over what you can actually control, which are the habits. Now comes the most important part, for you to implement one habit and see how it can directly change your life over the next 6 months. So I'm going to ask you to start off with one habit, not two, not three. Think about who you want to become and work backwards from there. Make it specific and small. Don't over exhaust yourself, because again, you get decision fatigue. Don't over exhaust yourself. Think back to the Goldilocks concept of not too easy and not too hard, somewhere right in the middle. Build your system to support it. Track it daily. So find another thing that allows you to track it. You can also find in the 6 months from now journal, there are pages where you can track your habits and just make sure you're staying on track with those. You can also write it down in a normal notebook. There are apps out there that you'll find are easy enough for tracking. Review and adjust as needed. If you find that you're finding it too easy, or you're not sticking to it, or you're not enjoying it, just make sure over time you regularly look into it, but don't just give up just because, you know, you just can't be bothered. Try and give it at least 21 days and see how you feel about it. If it does not align with who you are becoming, find something else that does align. Finally, celebrate every single milestone, even if it's something as simple as celebrating with a nice relaxing bath, or giving yourself a nice like Netflix night where you just don't have to think about anything. Just something to celebrate you, because as long as you can stick to this, you're already doing amazing. And whatever it is that you want to become, just stick to it and you'll see the fruits of your labor. 6 months from now, when you look back, you're going to be so grateful for the changes that you made at this moment in time. So I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and thank you for watching this video.